This exposes the underlying economics in our system. It's what that report should talk about.
Right. The final amount that comes out of pocket for the insurance company isn't the list price. It's actually the net price, which is basically list price minus rebate, but you don't get that benefit as a consumer.
It doesn't make any actual practical sense, but this is the system that we have. We just had DA Wallach on Monday as a guest speaker. We dove really deep into what's going on with prescription drug pricing, what's going on with marketplaces and the distribution of drugs. What are the incumbents doing? How are they trying to cramp the style of the disruptors? All these kinds of things. It just so happened that literally the day after, the Eli Lilly CEO, big pharma company, Eli Lilly, was on Jim Cramer's show, and they were talking about Warren, who had been, I guess using, I don't know if she called out Eli Lilly specifically, maybe, I guess.
I think the insulin, which Eli Lilly is a big primary manufacturer of, was something that came up as part of this conversation, right, which is why they got called out.
So then Jim Cramer said, well, what's going on with this insulin stuff, Eli? David Ricks is the CEO. David, are you guys, jacking up the prices or what's going on here? So let's listen into a little bit of this.
The vast majority of pharmacies do not offer access to this drug. Is this a real problem that Lilly should have been addressing? And what are you going to say about it?
That's nonsense.
Nonsense.
Yeah.
Well, so there are two senators. There's only 100 of them.
Well, look, I haven't read the details of the report. I read their press release. I can tell you what the facts are today. Many policymakers encouraged us to just lower the price of insulin.
Right.
We did that. We launched a half price of our best-selling product to say, okay, yes, there are some situations where patients have a high deductible plan. They're exposed to more of the list price when they're paying.
Right.
Or in January, which is right around the corner, people's deductible resets.
Yes.
Let's give them a low price alternative. We could argue whether half price is enough. It's a pretty big difference.
Okay, this is literally what we spoke about on the show the day prior on Monday. What he's saying is, because when you have a high list price and that means that your deductible, if the list price is higher, that means you as the consumer are going to be out of pocket more money because the deductible would theoretically be higher. Or if your plan starts over in January, you kind of, you need to spend, sometimes on some plans, you need to spend a certain amount of money to hit a cap. Right. And then
you as a consumer, if you're paying for it yourself, whether you don't have insurance or paying the deductible, you always pay the list price. But what the insurance company actually pays is what's called the net price. When he's talking about rebates, he's saying you pay the net price, which is what we talked about with DA, which is the pharma company will give a rebate to that insurance company or the pharmacy benefit manager that they've negotiated. When you buy this drug, we give you this amount of money back. So you're not actually paying the final amount that comes out of pocket for the insurance company isn't the list price. It's actually the net price, which is basically list price minus rebate, but you don't get that benefit as a consumer.
You don't get that benefit. And so if the list price is higher, more consumers would potentially be disadvantaged, right? So what he's saying is we launched a lower list price version of insulin. And
half list price, which is pretty significant.
We made that available this spring. It's distributed widely. But I would say on the availability in pharmacies, one of the three major national wholesalers has chosen not to cover it. Some pharmacies have chosen not to carry it. Why? Because this exposes the underlying economics in our system. It's what that report should talk about, which is that the middlemen, both in the supply chain as well as PBMs, insurance companies, prefer high list price products with a lot of rebate. This has a lower list price and less rebate.
Okay, why do they prefer higher list price and more rebate? Okay, well, you know what? We got answers for you. Okay, here it is.
You got to spend 80% of premiums taken in basically on healthcare for people. So if they're spending more on the list price for a drug, then it's easier to comply with that 80% ratio, even if they then get stuff back in rebates. Is that roughly right, DA?
Yeah, the issue is that if you're an insurance company, you collect $1 million from the people you insure. Under Obamacare, you are required to spend 80% of that premium on covering those people's healthcare costs. And as I point out in the article, the reason they put this in Obamacare was before that, you had insurance companies who were going after these crazy margins. And so that policy attempted to cap the margin, the profit margin that an insurance company could generate. Now, it creates many perverse incentives. One of those incentives is, of course, if you want your 20% to be bigger, what do? Well, you want all of the costs to be higher.
All of the costs be higher, you raise your list prices. It doesn't make any actual practical sense, but this is the system that we have, which the regulation has, as he was saying, these perverse incentives. So you can listen into that full episode. This link is at the top of our Twitter right now, with this highlight clip here. Really good session with DA, and certainly more to come on this topic. Hi, this is Alex from Winner Take All. Thanks for joining us. Hope you enjoyed the content. Feel free to leave a comment, ask us questions, and definitely make sure to join us on our next live stream.